recording for everyone's everyone's awareness. So it's just a minute past 6. We'll let some people keep rolling in as well. When they come in, I will just repeat the notice that I've given to everyone, which is that we're using a meeting format and not a webinar. So you're going to automatically be on mute and with your video turned off. And I'd ask that everyone just keep it this way, just helps with the recording and the streaming. But welcome everyone to our second online legal planning workshop about advanced care planning. So I'll kick us off with an acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we all gather. I'm calling from Gadigal lands of the Eora Nation, but I know that we are coming from a number of lands, all of which are unceded. So if you want to, please feel free to comment which land or country you're dialing in from today. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us today. I'd recognise the continued connection to the lands, waters, and the skies of this country that First Nations people have, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, always was, and always will be Aboriginal land. So, thank you everyone again for joining us. We're really excited for this workshop and great to see some familiar names from our last week's workshop. So, thank you for coming along again. So, in a similar kind of style, I'll begin this workshop with just doing some introductions, including myself and the panelists who are here. And then we'll move on to the fantastic presentation that Kylie has for us. So, not sure how many of us know about ACON, how many people are here from the last week or are new this week. So just give a quick overview. ACON is an LGBTQ plus health organization. Essentially, we're committed to improving LGBTQ plus and people living with HIV's health across New South Wales. There's a number of different programs and number of different teams that work on this, but Russ and I are both working in the Love Project, which is Living Older Visibly and Engaged. And this workshop is one of a few that we're bringing out with our kind of work to expand our palliative and end-of-life care health promotion. So we're really excited about these kinds of activities and workshops being able to get us talking about and kind of normalizing death and the care that sort of is involved towards the end of people's lives. So we are really, really lucky to have Kylie from Advanced Care Planning Australia joining us, who's one of the fantastic organizations partnering with us to get this workshop out there. So Kylie's got an awesome presentation for you, and we are also joined by Larissa from Dowson Turco Lawyers, who presented mostly last week, but will be here in case we need any kind of key legal guidance on this. So just some housekeeping before we really jump into it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a Zoom meeting. So you can turn off your screens. Please keep your audio off as well. And if you did want to add into a comment, feel free to use the chat bar and we can go through and read those out. I'd also like to welcome our Auslan interpreter, David. And hopefully David's video is there pinned on the screen, so please feel free to use that. We are recording this session, so that means that if your cameras or audio are on, that will be recorded. But it also means that we'll be putting it up on our YouTube channel as well afterwards so that you can refer back to this. And yeah, including that, we're going to be sending out the resources that are talked about today for anyone to access those later on as well. So this, like I mentioned, presentation will have some elements of discussion and participation. It's really great to hear any comments or any questions that you all might have. So feel free to pop those in the chat and then we will work through those. I think that'll be probably it. And then I'll have some comments at the end of this to kind of discuss what the evaluation looks like and how we're going to wrap up. But I think without further ado, I would love to jump straight into Kylie's presentation. So Kylie, please take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming me here tonight. As mentioned, I'm the Advanced Care Planning Australia Education Coordinator. I have got a background in nursing. My pronouns are she, her, and I'd really just like to start by thanking ACON and Dowson Turco teams for the invitation to collaborate in these workshops. It's been much appreciated. It's been a great experience so far. So, next slide, please. I represent Advanced Care Planning Australia, which is funded federally, operating as the national voice of advanced care planning. And we have activity across areas of education, community engagement, advocacy, research, and policy. And Advanced Care Planning Australia would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today with us. I join you today from Brisbane, Meanjin, and acknowledge the Turrbal and Yugara as the First Nations owners of these lands. Thank you. This presentation is for the purpose of sharing information in relation to advanced care planning. Information provided is general in nature and people should seek appropriate professional advice about their specific circumstances if required. And reference in this presentation will be to New South Wales specific advanced care planning processes and documents, acknowledging that throughout Australia there are different laws and different processes. Thank you. And I really just want to acknowledge that this may be sensitive and potentially upsetting some of the topics that are discussed to consider, but it is great that you're all here and open to this discussion. And if it does raise any concerns at all for you, please access supports. And we do have the wonderful ACON team here, and I know that we are all focused on ensuring that this is a safe space for this discussion. Thank you. So, what is this advanced care planning? Whilst you focused on areas of legal and financial planning in workshop 1, the focus tonight is on advanced care planning, which considers future healthcare. It's also person-led, meaning it's the person's choice and the choices that they make that are central to any conversations and/or the documentation that may result. Advanced care planning supports adults at any age or stage of health in really understanding and sharing their personal values, life goals, and preferences regarding future healthcare. And the goal of advanced care planning is to help to ensure that people receive healthcare that is actually consistent with those values, goals, and preferences during serious and chronic illness. And really some key principles that I just want to reinforce right from the bat. Advanced care planning should be considered a normal part of life and planning. And it is actually voluntary. You don't need to do this. It is your choice to participate in advanced care planning. Next slide. Now, let's consider why this is important though. If you don't speak to anyone about your wishes and/or document your preferences or instructions, and you became seriously ill or injured and cannot communicate your preferences or make treatment decisions, doctors will make treatment decisions based on their assessment of your best interests. This may include treatments that you would not want. None of us knows what will happen in the future or can predict what might happen in our health. Advanced care planning benefits everyone though. It supports you to make some decisions about healthcare now so that your wishes and preferences are known into the future. It helps to ensure the care you receive is care that you actually want. And it can improve ongoing and end-of-life care. And research has shown that families and carers of people who have done advanced care planning can experience less anxiety, depression, stress, and are more satisfied with the care that's received. And for healthcare professionals and organisations, it can also reduce unnecessary transfers to acute care and unwanted treatment. Next slide. So advanced care planning should occur as early as possible, and as many people should do it as possible as well. It is particularly important, though, if you have specific values, beliefs, or preferences which may influence health treatment decisions down the track. And some examples include people of Jehovah's Witness faith. They may request no blood products. For Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, ties to country may influence decision-making at end of life, where care is delivered, ceremonies to be included in, inclusion of traditional medicine perhaps as well. And for LGBTIQ plus community members, broadly, it may be about ensuring chosen family are recognised as substitute decision makers, ensuring presentation is maintained, continuation of hormone treatments. And these early discussions can ensure that you receive healthcare that really affirms that intersection between sexuality, gender, ethnicity, culture, and faith. It supports respect for connections to loved ones, relations, family of choice, family of origin, friends, and pets. Next slide. So, how do we actually do this and what does it involve? There's some important elements, and really it comes down to thinking about what's important to you, talking to your family and friends and healthcare providers, and then recording your wishes and preferences. So let's explore these. So advanced care planning involves thinking. And I've said this a number of times, you're going to get sick of the words values, beliefs, and preferences for your future healthcare. And while you're able to make these decisions and communicate your preferences, and I really identify those health outcomes that are acceptable to you. And to work out what's important to you, you might consider past experiences of healthcare, your current health, what future health might look like, and what does quality of life mean to you? And then finally, who do you trust to make those health decisions for you? Next slide. And advanced care planning can sometimes, whilst it sometimes centres on medical treatments and interventions, many times it's other things that are more important to people, such as continuing to listen to your favourite music, family being present at some time, maybe during consultations and personal care, having their pet close by. And we also need to consider cultural or spiritual beliefs and the need to continue rituals if that's important. Next slide. Now, sometimes it's not easy to clearly identify your values and preferences. There are some free Australian resources that can help you to consider these important questions and assist you to make choices and things that may not have even occurred to you. It's really about that creation of a picture of what quality of life means to you. So the Palliative Care Australia discussion starter sets include workbooks and cards to support individual or group reflection. And there are also sets specifically that have been developed for older people and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as well. And the My Values website is an online resource. It has a set of specifically constructed statements designed to help you identify, consider, and communicate your wishes about the medical treatment you would want. You can create your own values profile report in relation to life, death, and medical interventions. Next slide. So I thought during this session, we'd just have a quick go. So I'll pause for a moment to give you a chance to reflect on 3 of the My Values constructed statements and allow you to consider your responses and really how you would position yourself, whether you'd strongly agree with A or strongly agree with B or somewhere in the middle. So A, I would have to accept others looking after me if I couldn't look after myself. Or B, I would not accept being permanently dependent on others for care if I couldn't look after myself. Okay, we'll go to the next. So the next one, A, as long as I have a sound mind, I would accept physical limitations. Or B, being able to be physically active is most important to me. And next. So A, it is not appropriate to give up on treatment when things get hard. Or B, it is more dignified to stop treatment than to try and go on for too long. So as you can see, that statement, those are really value statements that really get to the crux of what is important to you. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to acknowledge that these might be difficult things to think about. And I guess I just encourage you to take a moment to have a breath. You might want to imagine somewhere safe and comfortable. My happy place is the ocean. And remember, you don't need to do all of this thinking in one go. You can take your time to really develop that picture of quality of life means to you, because it may take some time and some reflection. So I'll just pause and sort of consider if we've got any questions at this point, or if there's any comments. I can't see anything in the chat right now. And I don't see, I'm just trying to look at some of the questions that we had prior.
Yeah, I think maybe unless anyone has anything urgently they want to say, maybe we'll move on and can do some more questions towards the end. Thanks, everyone.
That's good. Okay, so once you've actually thought about your values and preference, we need to start talking. And you might want to discuss your thoughts with your family, friends, or carers. And for these conversations, again, choose a quiet setting so you know that you won't be interrupted. Be patient and once again, take your time. You don't need to talk everything out in one sitting. And it really can be an ongoing conversation. And this part of talking is really important to ensure that the person or people that are around you, that you are choosing to speak for you as an enduring guardian or substitute decision maker, that they are really prepared. And you may also want to talk to your healthcare team because they can give you some advice around what future health might look like and guide you in some of this documentation or the conversations that you have. And we know that initiating these conversations isn't easy for anyone. This conversation starter card can help you just find the words to describe what is important to you. And these are available for downloading off the Advanced Care Planning Australia website as well. Next slide. Now, a substitute decision maker, I just used that term before. This is the person that you choose to make healthcare decisions on your behalf if you are not able to. They should be someone you trust, someone who's over 18 years, who will listen carefully to your values and preferences for future care, who will be comfortable making decisions in difficult situations. And when you choose your substitute decision maker, you should ask yourself the question, am I confident that this person will make decisions based on what I want? So this is a really important role, and this video gives an overview of how a substitute decision maker should act.
Whether it's a friend, a parent, grandparent, or your partner, being chosen as someone's substitute decision maker is an important responsibility. It means that you are there to make healthcare decisions for someone else should they become too unwell and can no longer make decisions themselves. It means that you have talked with them to understand what they would want and are trusted above all others to say what they would have preferred. It means that you need to understand what it means to be a substitute decision maker. So put yourself in their shoes. Be open, be ready, be heard. Being open means listening to your loved one about their values and life goals. Understand as much as you can and respect those choices, even if this means putting aside your own beliefs. Being ready is about speaking up when you need to. It includes talking through potential issues with family members or even a partner whose views and preferences may differ from your own. And finally, being heard is about letting people know what your loved one would have wanted and speaking up if their values aren't being respected. To ensure you're heard, they may even wish to legally appoint you as their substitute decision maker and document their values and preferences. To help you understand what it means to be a substitute decision maker, there is more information available online, or you can call for support and advice.
Thanks, Zoe. So after you've thought about your healthcare, discussed it with others, and selected a substitute decision maker, it is recommended that you record your choices. The process of doing this varies between state and territories, and on the slide are the options for New South Wales. Documenting your wishes in an advance care directive and appointing an enduring guardian is the best way to make your preferences known about the type of treatment you would want if you were unable to participate in health decisions, and to really ensure that family and health professionals respect these decisions when the time comes. Next slide. So this is the document on the screen. I've just got the first page of that you can see in New South Wales. And this document is freely available online. If you call the Advanced Care Planning Australia National Advisory Service, we can also post you a hard copy if you'd like that. There is information at the start of the document to assist you to complete the fields. And you can see the sections on the screen there. It's broken into the 5 sections. You don't have to complete all of the sections. 2, 3, and 5 are optional. Key, though, is to try and be as clear as possible and as much detail. There are some example statements in the document which you can read. In section 2, this is where you may really wish to specify the role of your chosen family in care, what type of music you would like played. Is privacy important to you, and what does that look like? What type of music would you like played? What value statements around clothes you would like to wear, the use of pronouns and chosen names, for example. In section 3, you can specify medical instructions, and this can be difficult when you're fit and well, and none of us has a crystal ball. But this is why it's really important to put as much detail in the values section, so people reading this document can get a real sense of what is important to you. So if they do need to make decisions, that they're based on those values. You can also talk to a health professional, or there is information online to assist you to complete this section 3. And key points around this document. An advanced care directive is valid if you had capacity when you wrote it. And it has to have very clear and specific details about treatments you would accept or refuse. And the directions that you have specified, they have to be relevant to the situation that you find yourself in when you lose capacity and a decision has to be made. So that is key. It has to be relevant. And while not legally required, it is strongly recommended that a witness co-signs the Advanced Care Directive. Health professionals need to have a strong sense of faith that this document reflects your values and wishes, and it is what you've documented. And importantly, it's only used when a person is unable to communicate and make decisions. So before then, it's just a really good insurance piece of paper sitting there on the shelf to give you some assurance. So there you go. Yep. Next slide. And I just wanted to clarify that in New South Wales, if a person completes a common law advanced care directive giving direction about their health or medical treatment, that direction must be followed. A substitute decision maker isn't necessary if the decision relates to something which is actually documented in their advanced care directive and relates to the situation. But a substitute decision maker is often consulted so that the advanced care directive is understood more clearly. And if you don't appoint an enduring guardian or have a guardian appointed by a New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal, a person responsible, and these may also be called a substitute decision maker, they will be identified according to a hierarchy list. And this is the list that's on the screen at the moment. And I think this is really important when we consider who is on that list and working from top to bottom. Are they the people that you would want to have speaking for you on your behalf? And if the list doesn't align to your values and preferences, you really do need to consider appointing an enduring guardian. Next slide. So then really, after creating your documents, you should share copies with your substitute decision maker, family, friends, carers, and your doctors. And this will really ensure that everyone knows what you want. We also do recommend uploading your documents into My Health Record, but a hard copy document on your bedside table, on the fridge, with your GP is really the way to ensure that if the time comes and you don't have capacity or you can't answer questions and make decisions, that the document is available to guide your care. Next slide. And this is not a document that you sit and forget. Like last week when we talked about the need to review your financial and legal documents, you really need to actually review your decisions and documents regularly as well. This is particularly important if something changes in either your health, personal or living situation. And you can change your advanced care directive as often as you like or revoke it as long as you have capacity. If you revoke it, it is very important that you let people know and destroy all previous copies. If you change your advanced care directive, you should make sure you let people know and give them new copies. Because if you don't revoke your advanced care directive, it will not expire. And that also goes to the appointment of an enduring guardian. You can revoke them as well. And your enduring guardian may also resign. So it is just important to be aware of those things. And for further information, really the New South Wales Government Trustee and Guardian website is your go-to for that one. So I guess at this point, I do notice there are a couple things in the chat. Is the Advanced Care Directive legally binding, says Karen. And yes, it is a common law document. So that is legally binding, and health professionals do need to review those and follow those. Is it specifically for end of life? Generally, yes, but these are also for circumstances where there may be a temporary loss of capacity. So it may be that you get a concussion and you end up in hospital, and for 24 hours, you're not able to participate in discussions, conversations, and decision making. So there may be points at which you do lose capacity in a temporary way, and you may want someone to speak on your behalf in those circumstances.
Kylie, just as a sidebar question, the Advanced Care Directive being legally binding, is that the same across all states of Australia, or is it different?
It's different, and you
Right.
really, on a case-by-case basis, you do need to check that. That is a big part of the advocacy work that Advanced Care Planning Australia is going through, looking at all of the different, because each state has different legislation.
Right.
And generally, a common law should be accepted in each of the states, but Queensland is one in particular that does not accept common law advanced care directives. But saying that, if it is a values and preferences statement, these are things that can be looked at, because they're not consent for a medical treatment. So these are things that can still have value across a border.
Good, thank you.
There's an interesting question from Joshua. What if the Advanced Care Directive says that the person should have a certain type of treatment, but the treating doctor does not think that it is appropriate? I think it's a really difficult, broad question to answer, but I will answer it by, and I've got some language, I just want to make sure that I definitely use the correct language, that agency. So substitute, really in this situation, that a medical practitioner will not participate in treatment that is going to adversely affect the person, and that they don't believe has, I want to get the right words here. I'm just going to hold that one for a moment and come back to you, because I don't want to get this wrong, and I'll get the right words for you. The right words. Yeah. So I thought I could answer that one, but I just don't want to get that right.
Just to jump in as well, I had a question sent through to me also, Kylie, saying, assuming that an advanced care directive is valid and you've proved capability when it was written, we believe that health professionals and enduring guardians can't overrule an advanced care directive, but are there any situations where advanced care directives can be contravened? For example, if you have dementia or were under the Mental Health Act and stated that you don't want certain treatments.
If it is something that the person has actually put very specific medical treatments and said, I do not want antibiotics in any circumstances, and they wrote that in when they had capacity, and they are now in a situation where antibiotics are an option for, say, a chest infection or something like that, and they don't now have capacity, it's actually not legal for a doctor to give those antibiotics, because they actually have not consented to it. So at the crux of an advanced care directive is consent. It's consenting to, or saying you don't want a treatment. So no, they actually can't give those antibiotics. They can give supporting pain medication, other treatments to support the person with their symptoms, but no, they actually can't give antibiotics in that situation.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Kylie. Now that I've got myself off mute. Oh, sorry, did you
I've
have
got the words.
Yeah, please.
So, a health professional has no obligation to provide treatment that is futile or non-beneficial, even if the treatment is requested by the person in a common law health directive. And in the case of a substitute decision maker, that would also be definitely questioned by a health professional. It's really, you can't do something that is not going to be in the best interest of the person as well, that's futile or non-beneficial.
And I was just going to ask as well, I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a question just saying how do we determine if the person had capacity at the time of completing the advanced care directive?
Capacity is assumed. So we have assumed capacity. And there is, if there is a question that the person doesn't have capacity, that is really something that requires further assessment medically. So there's elements that you'd be testing for the person's understanding, comprehension, being able to communicate what they believe the decision is, but that's really up to for a proper assessment.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, then I was going to read out one of the other questions that I noticed, which I think actually kind of goes into the case study that you had, Kylie. So I'm now just internally debating whether I let you do the case study first or ask the question first. But the question says, how binding is the advanced care plan to faith-based aged care facilities, which this person rightfully points out is the majority of providers, and knowing that, you know, for our community, that can be an issue and a thing of quite big concern. So how can we sort of protect identity and things like that in our advanced care directive, and how does that work for the different facilities that you may end up at? And so I'll leave it to you, Kylie, whether you want to answer that now or go into the case study that I know you have prepared to answer that also.
Well, that's okay. I think it's a good point at which to jump in and highlight that if you do have the ability to choose a aged care environment, that there are some things that you can do prior to ending up in aged care that you can actually assess whether or not they are going to be safe for you. And I think there's some great resources around that, sort of almost create a checklist of sorts to be able to really appraise how safe the organisation is, how they portray those values, do they openly celebrate LGBTIQ plus community activities and members, do they offer training for their staff, those sorts of things. So there's a great Victorian resource that has a bit of a checklist that you can actually assess, and I'll get that to you, Zoe, to be able to share to the audience later. But it is really about doing a bit of your homework as well. And then some of that is, if there is a possibility that you will lose capacity and you are concerned about the care that you will receive, is actually making sure that you do have a really good network and a substitute decision maker to support you and advocate for you as well. That is really important. But I think the key part there is some good work occurring, and the work of organisations like yourself in terms of educating communities and also healthcare workers is really crucial. Yeah. So do you want me to talk through the case scenario and just sort of highlight?
Yeah, that could be a good idea. And then everyone else, if there are other questions coming, send them through either direct message to me or there, and we can see if we can get to them also. But yeah, sorry, Kylie, did you want to keep going with the case study?
Yeah, because it really flips the situation to the other side, and it shows the importance of ensuring that you have a really good substitute decision maker that is speaking on your behalf. And I would like to give credit to Jennifer Sargent, who's co-chair of the LGBTI Community Aging Network on the Sunshine Coast, for this example. And so this related to a transgender woman who was admitted to a high care dementia unit and was very well supported by the staff there. Continued to do her nails, put her makeup on every day. They maintained her wardrobe. The enduring guardian, though, was a nephew, and the nephew had not come to terms with the transition of his uncle. And on one of the rare occasions that he visited, he exploded and he was very angry and said, "You can't do this. This is my uncle," and removed all of the female clothing from the room, removed all the makeup, walked out and said, this was it. He was the enduring guardian, and this person was his uncle and should look like his uncle. So the wonderful staff put in a complaint to the NCAT, and they got the ball rolling to withdraw the nephew's enduring power of attorney. In addition, they collected money and they went out and they went to op shops and they bought in makeup and nail polished, and then continued to support this beautiful woman to live out the rest of her best life. And so on the flip side of that example that we just spoke before about a facility perhaps not supporting a person, there are positive examples where healthcare providers and allies do support choices and safety. And there's processes in place, such as the NCAT in New South Wales, to ensure that if there is a problem, that you can get that rectified, and you're respected and have peace of mind and confidence that your wishes and preferences will be heard and implemented. So there are avenues of to question activity that isn't safe as well. But that was just an example from, yeah, it's come up. I like Gary's comment, why isn't this a Commonwealth matter? Surely consistency is important. I feel you, Gary. And that's something that Advanced Care Planning Australia has a very large role in terms of advocacy and policy around a number of these issues, and is really looking at working with a number of the state guardian organisations, because they each have different legal frameworks in which they work. Some substitute decision makers are called different things in different states and territories. So this is certainly something that we're working at, trying to look at getting some national consistency. Yeah, because it is challenging, and it is something to definitely consider if you do cross a border, certainly in New South Wales to Queensland. And yeah, you just need to be aware of that. You may need to complete new paperwork.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder as well how these workshops are linked. It's great that we've been able to split this into two so that we can have more time on each topic, but it does kind of show that the big takeaway that we all had from that first workshop was really make sure that everything is binding and the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and things, so that all of this is kind of secure no matter where you go. And I think, yeah, Gary, your comment points out why that is important as well. Look, I guess we have a bit more time for some questions and comments if any are coming through. We've got a great one. Oh, sorry, Kylie, were you going to go?
I just wonder if we do address the elephant in the room. And there were a couple of questions in the prior to this session around voluntary assisted dying. And I guess just to clearly say that for an advanced care directive to be enacted, you need to lose capacity. But for voluntary assisted dying, you must have capacity right the way through to you enacting voluntary assisted dying. So they are two very different processes. And whilst you can document in your values section of an advanced care directive that it is something that you believe in, it is not something that can be enacted on your behalf.
I get one question I had was just around the authorization on the advanced care plan. Who can actually authorize? Is that a witness or enduring guardian, a GP, all of the above?
So is this on the actual document who can sign and witness?
Yes.
Yeah, there's actually on the New South Wales Advanced Care Directive document, you don't need to have it witnessed. So
Right.
you've got a fair bit of flexibility there. It does talk about you know, you, and then the details of the witness. It can be anyone over 18. And then treating health professionals also have an opportunity to sign this and put their, I guess, weight to the fact that they've documented and or read this as well.
Yep. And that sort of makes sense because you would probably be having some good conversations with your.
Well, definitely.
Uh,
Yeah.
I will let us jump to the couple of questions and comments that are coming through from Joshua and Marie. Thank you both for commenting. I just wondered as well, I think Larissa has a bit of a legal perspective on that particular case that you discussed, Kylie. So before we all move on too much onto our other questions, Larissa, did you just want to jump in and give us a bit of that legal perspective?
Yes, thank you, Zoe. I just wanted to add that when you provide instruction to a solicitor for your enduring guardian, they will contact your nominated guardian and substitute, and before all parties to the document sign, it is within the lawyer's responsibility to make sure that everyone understands that they're to act in your best interests and what their powers and limitations are within that document. So if you are worried about having nominated someone who might not know you well enough to make those decisions for you, it is the lawyer's responsibility to make sure that they understand their role and what proceedings they can undertake if they didn't want to continue acting as your enduring guardian.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That is super useful to know. Thank you, Larissa. Shall we just keep making our way through a couple more of these questions? Kylie and Larissa, if you're both comfortable with that, I see a great load coming through, which is fantastic. I had one that we missed just previously asking to do with organ donation at the end of life. Can someone living with HIV be eligible for body or organ donation? I'm not sure if anyone particularly, Kylie or Larissa, if you know, I'm personally not sure. But if there's any insight, otherwise I can get researching and try provide that answer myself.
Yeah, I'd have to take that one on notice.
Mm.
I think Ben might have just slipped in the same link that I was about to. That might be beneficial for that particular organ and body donation question.
And I think that is
Thank
one
you,
thing that is
Ben.
quite unique about the New South Wales Advanced Care Directive. It is the only one nationally that you can actually make a statement around, specifically around organ tissue body donation quite explicitly. And there's certainly other ways to donate for scientific purposes and research as well. So it's there's a few options there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Could anyone comment on whether verbal advanced care directives hold effect?
I think this is one that, yes, in New South Wales common law, and Larissa, you can probably jump in on this one as well, an advanced care directive does not have to be on paper. It can be, or in that specific document, it can also be a video recording of someone's voice, video face as well. It can be written on a letter as well. I think the key thing here is that there needs to be some element of it that shows that it is linked to the person and that it is a true representation of their values and preferences. A health professional who is acting on that and is making a judgment call to either consent to a medical treatment or to withdraw treatment, that they actually know that this is the person's wishes. And that is the critical part here. It does need to come back to, can that health professional be very secure in that knowledge?
That makes a lot of sense. Oh, Russ, I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Just to probably to recap another question about, oh, now I've lost it. Storage.
Oh,
Can you
yes.
see that one? Oh, is there a
This-
recommended place or system for storage of the various documents that have been included tonight?
In the presentation. So just, yeah, as a recap, we talked about having hard copies and having those in your house, on your fridge, on your bedside table, giving them to your substitute decision maker as well, so they have a copy, storing them with your general practitioner or healthcare provider, healthcare team. They would go to your aged care setting if that was appropriate. And we also do recommend that they're uploaded into My Health Record as well.
Your solicitor can also hold any original documents such as your will, power of attorney, enduring guardian in their safe custody. They normally have a big safe and filing system going on in which they can look after that for you free of charge.
Fantastic. I have another question come through saying if a health professional or person responsible is acting against an advanced care directive, who would you go to for help? Would this be something you could go to a solicitor about, or is there any other people that would be the key kind of protective factors there?
There are, so in terms of New South Wales, there are some provisions if you did have any concern about the care that a person is receiving. Certainly good communication with the healthcare service is probably your first step. Actually talk to the healthcare service, see whether there are mechanisms in that service to try and resolve that situation. And then look to see whether or not you can actually go to some health ombudsman would be sort of a higher level sort of choice there as well. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And I also just want to point out for everyone, just in reference to that question we previously talked about storing these documents, Marie has very helpfully said that some health services in New South Wales have provisions for them to be uploaded to the electronic medical record of the hospital or the LHD that you belong to. So that could also be something for people to do their homework to look up and see if their LHD or medical facilities would have that. That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Marie.
And I'd also like to reinforce Marie's also clarified and sort of put in a suggestion if there was some question around capacity, if a family did have questions about whether or not an advanced care directive was completed when the person had capacity, really going to a health professional and GP is really a good starting point.
Awesome. Well, we might jump along if you want, Kylie, to your summary. We've had some fantastic questions and maybe we can keep going. I suddenly realized that time is catching up to us. So if you want to, keep going, and any other questions that people have, please do send them through and we can try and get to them towards the end, but we might move on to the next part. So thank you, Kylie.
Sure. So this is really just a summary, some of the key points that we have covered tonight, that advanced care planning is a voluntary process. It involves ongoing conversations. It's completed by the individual when they had capacity, and it's their values and preferences. And it's a process that may or may not involve legally binding documents for a time when that person is unable to communicate or make those decisions. So that's advanced care planning in a nutshell. And there's just some resources there that I think Zoe will also include on a fact sheet of some sort to share with the audience as well. But really, the Advanced Care Planning Australia website does have some information on there around how to do your advanced care planning in New South Wales. There is a great video on the digital health website, which shows how to upload your documents. And there's the Palliative Care Australia and My Values websites that are worth having a look at as well.
Awesome.
And we will be sending out an evaluation after this session, so we'd really love to hear your feedback, and if you have any other questions, and we'll also include all of the links that we've referred to tonight as well.
Okay, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of our presentation. Massive, massive thank you, Kylie, for putting all this together and for informing us all so much. I think I can speak for everyone that we are walking home with a lot more knowledge, feeling a lot more prepared for this kind of area than we had at the start. And the same with Larissa for both the first presentation, the first workshop last week, and also for your help and your advice in this week as well. I appreciate, Dowson Turco and Advanced Care Planning Australia for partnering with us and helping us here. Thank you everyone as well for being such wonderful participants. Those were some really great questions. And I just want to echo Russ's summary there that I will be sending through all the resources that we've talked about. And all of them have the steps that Kylie has discussed and that Larissa has discussed. But of course, check out both other organizations if you do want any more specific, either legal advice or advanced care planning advice as well. And thank you so much also, David, for joining us today and for interpreting for us. That was fantastic. So look, what we might do is we'll hang around for the last couple of minutes just in case anyone needs to share something or reach out to us directly. If this is the case, just make sure that you're sending this in a direct message and we can know to hang around. But otherwise, we might just leave it a couple of minutes and then we will close this off. Thank you so much, everyone. And final thing before I let you all go, just make sure you are following the Love Club at ACON. We're on a lot of social medias and that'll give you all the updates for all the further workshops and programs that we're going to be doing in this topic, in this area. So watch this space. We'll be coming out with a lot more soon. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll hold on for just a couple of minutes and then we'll let you all go and have a good evening.